Thank you to my friends at ADL for inviting me to be with you today. And it's a huge pleasure to share this platform with Isaac and Ilan. In February, I decided to leave the Labour Party, of which I'd been a member for more than 40 years. I did so because the party is now institutionally anti-Semitic and riddled with hatred for the world's only Jewish state. Since Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party 4 years ago, Jewish MPs have been bullied out of the party. Jewish members have been abused, harassed and threatened. And anti-Semitism has been covered up, dismissed and ignored. I could not remain in such a party. And I could not and will not campaign for Jeremy Corbyn to become Britain's next Prime Minister. Labour continues to insist that it's dealing with the problem. But as we've heard, these two statistics tell the real story. As Britain's general election campaign began, a poll which is consistent with other previous surveys showed that 87% of Jews regard Jeremy Corbyn as anti-Semitic, and nearly half say they will consider emigrating if he becomes Prime Minister next month. For Labour, once a staunch friend of Israel and a firm ally of the Jewish community, to have sunk to these depths so quickly is truly frightening. I also want to make clear at the outset that while today I'm addressing left anti-Semitism, a virus which I and others have seen poison the Labour Party over the past 4 years, I fully recognise the very real threat posed by the far right and their populist fellow travellers and enablers. They have to be fought with as much vigour and energy and determination as their far left equivalents. Only those who are willing to do so can be regarded as true opponents of anti-Semitism. There are 5 lessons from which I believe other progressive parties facing similar, if as yet not so developed, challenges from left anti-Semites can learn. First, it is vital to confront every instance of anti-Semitism and confront it from the beginning. Once the virus begins to take hold, it will spread with great speed. Too many people in the Labour Party believed it was just a case of a few bad apples for far too long. By the time Labour became institutionally anti-Semitic, it was far too late to root out the Jew haters. Second, it is crucial to set clear red lines that you're not willing to compromise on. On the left, anti-Semitism and a hatred of Israel are utterly intertwined. Tackling anti-Zionist anti-Semitism isn't easy, especially given the pernicious and untrue charge by our proponents that we're simply trying to stifle criticism of Israel. But that should not prevent us from saying clearly, those who single out the world's only Jewish state for criticism and who deny the Jewish people alone the right to self-determination are anti-Semites, pure and simple. And if you claim to oppose anti-Semitism but won't ever speak up for Israel, you're not a true ally. Third, we must offer a moral and intellectual critique of the far left, not simply a political one. The main criticism of Corbyn from Labour moderates throughout the first 2 years of his leadership was that he was unelectable. But the closely fought election of 2017 undermined that critique. We should have been saying from the outset that Corbyn's hard left project was morally wrong, that his hatred of Israel was repugnant, and that his tolerance of anti-Semitism, his past associations with Holocaust deniers, Jew haters, and terrorist sympathisers made him unfit to be Britain's Prime Minister. In short, our critique should have been rooted in a fear of what he would do in power, not a fear that he wouldn't be able to attain it. Fourth, it's important to understand the importance and limits of leadership. Before Corbyn's election, we complacently failed to recognise the challenge, the rise of a small but vocal, highly organised hard left fringe. We were dismissing it as an irrelevant minority. But when we lost the leadership, that fringe very quickly became the mainstream. Nor should we underestimate the manner in which many moderates simply averted their eyes, kept their heads down once the leadership was captured by the hard left. Some of those the Jewish community had traditionally regarded as allies simply melted away when it became politically expedient for them to do so. We need to be clear. The true test of an ally is how they behave when times are difficult, not when they are easy. And finally, we should build a wider case about why anti-Semitism matters to Jew and non-Jew alike. In her excellent study of anti-Semitism, published earlier this year, Rabbi Julia Neuberger captures this brilliantly. She talks of the paranoid conspiracy theories and the tropes that accompany them, which infuse anti-Semitism. She notes how these are now beginning to be seen and heard amongst individuals who hitherto didn't have an anti-Semitic bone in their body. And she concludes with these words: "This stuff spreads. That's why it matters. It matters because it smells. It rots the body politic. It leads to worse. And it renders rational thought incapable in the face of an ineluctable active theory of why they are to blame. It destroys normal, rational, evidence-based thought." She's right. In short, anti-Semitism is a threat to free societies. It is the ally of the populist, the crank, the conspiracy theorist. It coarsens debate, it weakens democracy, and it corrodes the bonds which hold societies together. We must resist it at all costs, in all places, and at all times. Thank you.